Hello, welcome to my daily watercolor practice, day 24. I do these videos every day and I show you how I practice watercolors to improve my skills and also how to kind of find more fun in watercolor. So I'm basically still figuring things out, so it's going to be a kind of messy video. My videos are generally messy, but it's also honest. I will basically, I'm not really editing, you know, I'm just kind of letting you in on everything that's happening. So anyway, for today I am planning to I'm kind of I think it's important to practice, you know, your skills, but I'm still figuring out how to make practice more fun, because I don't want it to feel like a chore. I'm still figuring it out, but for today I thought I will paint a feather in using lots of different techniques. So I already wrote down what I was thinking of doing. So for example, we'll be doing wet in wet, wet and dry, some techniques like salt, cling film and all that. I think that I've done this before and I found it quite helpful. You know, I think it can kind of clear up a lot of because there's so many different ways to paint in watercolor. So that can be helpful to just see it all laid out in front of you. Anyway, we'll stop rambling now. Let's just start. So the first one I was gonna do is wet in wet, but there's two ways to do wet in wet. Well, I'm simplifying, I guess, but the way you can do wet in wet is, for example, you start with water or you start with color. So I'm going to do the one where you start with water. So I'm literally going to paint my feather using water. So I'm using water almost as if it was paint, and then I'm just going to pick a color. I should have wetted my palette really, because now it might dry. Oh yeah, one part already is drying. So I'm just dropping in some color, drop in here, and the color will only go where the water is, and then you can add a little bit more color, some darker color. So this is quite a soft technique. When I paint feathers, I leave a little bit of a gap in the middle, so I kind of try to avoid like adding water here, but it is a little tricky when you're using water because you can't really see that well. Anyway, so this is one of the techniques. Now the next one, I will put color first. I'm going to use pink this time. So I'm putting color first, and then I'm adding another color on top. Well, dropping color really, it's not like I'm gonna overlay it. So I'm gonna start with this little stick thing, and then laying down the color, leaving the gap, and then I'm going to pick a different color to add to it. Should I add blue or should I add yellow? I think I'm gonna go with yellow, maybe like a warm yellow, cadmium yellow, or maybe even Indian yellow. I need to be fast because my paper is not cotton, so it kind of dries a little bit fast. So for example, here is already dry. I could try adding it, but it's not really going to spread much. But yeah, basically with this technique, this one is a little softer. This one is the blending is not as soft and fuzzy. Obviously, details depend on how much water you used, how wet was the paper, so there are other things that affect how it turns out. But generally speaking, the one where you start with water is just a little bit more free, but also like it's harder to control. Right, so the third one will be wet on dry. So I'm literally going to paint a feather. What color should I use? Maybe I'll go for something like a raw sienna. Let's say raw sienna. So I'm literally using my watercolor. You could kind of like almost as if it was like acrylic, for example. I'm literally just putting the paint down and letting it dry. And then once it dries, I will layer it with more color, but I am really tempted to add dark color on top because this is way too pale. Oh, I am really not good with layering, so it's hard for me not to fiddle with it, but for the purpose of like showing what I mean and, you know, following the just wet and dry and not turning it into wet on wet, I will let it dry. It's not going to turn out well, but mostly because I'm not that good with planning layering. I suppose I could do 3 layers to kind of add a bit more depth to it, but I'm gonna try not to be a control freak. So I let it dry. I have to let it dry before I add another layer. That's why it's wet and dry. Next one is soft and hard edge. So how should I well, there are different ways of doing it, but basically the hard edge is all of them really have hard edges, but the soft edge is where we soften the edge with water. So I can either put some water down, wet the paper, and then paint this feather when the paper is wet, or I could paint the feather and then with a damp brush soften the edge. I'm not sure which one I want to go for this time. I think I'm going to soften the edge after painting. Okay, let's do that. Right, so I'm going to maybe use indigo this time. So I will do one edge will be hard edge. So basically what I've been doing and even when I was doing water first, because I drew, like I put the water in the shape of the feather, that's why it created a hard edge. You can also do wet in wet, you can create a soft edge, but then I would have to wet the paper and then just paint the feather on the actual wet, kind of like a rectangle, rather than just lay the water in the shape of a feather. I hope that makes sense. Right, so I'm kind of painting this feather as normally, I guess, but then now I don't want the brush to be too wet. It shouldn't be like dripping with water. It's just damp, and then I just soften this edge by adding water. And then we can soften it further by just adding more water around it. So it kind of creates this fuzzy edge on one side. Now the thing is that all these techniques, you know, by themselves, I mean this one I guess could be kind of nice, maybe this one. Anyway, it's quite often it's good to use a few techniques to add more depth, to, you know, create a pretty painting. I am just practicing the techniques. I'm not really focusing so much on how on the like end result, you know, on the feathers to be pretty. So this one, I think it's fairly dry. One way to check if something is dry, if it's cold to touch, which this one is a little bit cold to touch, but yeah, if it's cold to touch with the back of your hand, it's still a little damp, but I am someone who's very impatient. I like to finish things, so I'm actually going to use maybe a little bit darker shade this time, and then I can add some maybe I'll add a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of an edge here. What you can also do is when you layer, you can also soften the edge a little bit. So it's not as harsh. I'm not really that great with layering, so I think I'm just going to maybe a little bit more here, something like this. Okay, there we go. That's basically the idea. Okay, now for some fun techniques. I need to grab my bubble wrap. I'll do it in a minute. Right, so first one will be salt. What should we use salt for? Some colors react a little bit better with salt than others. Generally blues, most blues that I've tried react well, but I don't want to do another blue. Should I do indigo again? Indigo is pretty good with salt, I think. So I'm literally going to paint the feather. I'm using quite a lot of water because that's when the salt will work better. And I'm just dropping a bit of salt. It will create this lovely texture, but it does take some time for the salt to soak up the paint. Right, that was my chair, by the way. Now for a bit of cling film. Now with the cling film, I usually use it on bigger washes. I don't really have much experience using it on a small wash. I think I tried it once and for some reason it didn't really work well. So this might happen again. Should we do a purple one this time for a change? Something different. Right. Oh, this is already starting to react. Oh, it will look even better. Probably should have used a little bit of a bigger brush. This one's a little small. It is what it is. Right, so with the cling film I'll need to let it dry as well. One thing you can do with cling film also is create the pattern you want a little bit. Like I quite like this, using it kind of like for example for like water, I like to pull it like this. Right. Oh, I think it's a little small, it might be tricky. Okay, well, we'll see. Let's just okay, bubble wrap. Let's grab bubble wrap. I've got some nice one in here. I'm just going to chop it a little bit. It's a little big. Where are my scissors? Oh, okay. Right. So same thing again. What feather should we do? I'm overthinking it. Let's just do pink again. Okay, might be a little bit small. Do it this way. There we go. Again, I'm not sure how this will turn out because such a small feather, but we'll see. And negative painting. So what I'm going to do is paint around the feather. Let's go with the raw sienna again, or maybe let's switch to my burnt umber. That's kind of a bit messy. Yeah, let's do this one. No, it's windy. No. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is paint around the feather. Maybe soften the edge. This one is quite unforgiving. If you mess up, it's a little it's hard to fix, but Well, I suppose that looks a little bit like feather, so let's just go with it. But that's basically the principle. I just will paint around the shape. It's good for like subjects that are like even white subjects. I could also, what I could do once it dries, I could just add a tiny bit of like a shading to it, you know, like maybe here with a very pale wash. So let's just wait for this to dry, and while they do, we're gonna move on to lifting techniques. Should we go for a green feather? It's a bit of a strange idea, green feather, but why not? So again, I'm going to paint feather. You can use for this kitchen towel or like even like just a tissue, anything really. I have a kitchen towel right here somewhere. There we go. So this will create this like soft effect. I like using this technique for clouds, or for like poppies, for like flowers that have very delicate petals. Very nice. Now lifting with damp brush. Okay, so this time I will use a maybe indigo, because hopefully with the dark wash I'll be able to show it. So I'm actually not going to, like, I'm leaving a gap here rather than leaving the gap. I'm just going to paint the feather. Now it's a little bit tricky, but let's try. Okay, so the brush needs to be just damp, not wet, just damp. And it's basically a thirsty brush, so it should pick up some color. It's not really working very well right now. So there are some colors that are kind of react better with this than others. Is it granulating and not granulating? Can't remember. I just remember that there are some colors that kind of can be lifted off. Or is it just opaque and transparent? I can't remember that, but just some colors that work better with this. Now I kind of made it maybe a little bit too, not perfect, but like too regular. But anyway, that's the principle behind it. Now lifting with the end of the brush is even harder to do. Let's use pink again, because the results can depend on how dry the wash is. If it's dry enough, let's just fill it in again. So if it's dry enough, it's going to actually create like a white line, but when it's still damp, it will actually create like the paint will actually, rather than be lifted, it will be like flow into the into the edge that we create. This what's wrong with me? So my brush has a pretty thick end, so I'm going to use a different one, hoping that this will work. Just try before it. There we go. So it's kind of flowing in. Yes, it was dry enough. It also depends on like the type of paper a little bit. Maybe I'll actually add some lines. No, it's too late. This one, I find this one tricky, so I hardly ever use it. It's just hard to control. Anyway, but that's one of the techniques. And the next one is dry brush. So when we're basically using paint that's the consistency is like a thick consistency, and it will create this, also depending on the paper, which this one might not show that well, but it creates this like broken kind of surface. What shall we use for this? Should I try with the blue? I'm going to try to test it on scrap piece of paper. Have I got a scrap piece of paper? I had it somewhere. Oh, there we go. Use it of this. It's just okay. So it's dry enough. Sort of think now it's too dry. That's basically the principle. When it's dry, it creates this. No, it looks very messy now. Anyway, this kind of is what I was trying to do. Okay, now for the fun part. Oh, I just put my piece of paper on my other painting spot. I think it will be okay. Right, so now I will use some mixed media with my feathers. My brain is really switching off. I'm really sorry. It's a bit late. It was really hot today. And there's actually partial eclipse in the UK right now, but it's almost like over. Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, so watercolor pencil. It doesn't have to be watercolor, but I'll use watercolor. So again, this is something I don't really use much. So we use this one, but they can be included as well. For example, up the lines, maybe create the outline a bit. I think I overdid it a little bit. Okay, yeah, let's just leave it. So that's one. Now another one is actually what I do like to use. I need to use a pen. I've got my thick pen here. I had another one. Where's my thinner pen? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll use the other one because it's thinner. Let's do the blue one maybe. Now I'll wait for it to dry and then I'll use a pen. And another one, pastel. I like to use oil pastels because they are they're a bit like crayons. So they stick well. They can be used as a resist as well. What color should we use? Let's just go with this. And my absolute favorite metallic paint. I think I'm gonna use pink for this one and a gold metallic. I like this color combination. There we go. Okay, so pen. So with the pen, I like to do like squiggly lines. Kind of tend to add a little bit more at the bottom, basically where the object is either heavy or where the shadow is. Just a scribble. That's not looking very nice, but that's basically the idea. Okay, pastel. What pastel should we use? My pastels here. Shall we just try this one maybe? They're a bit messy. Again, we can add some texture. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, and metallic. I'm going to use a different brush because they tend to really stick to your brush. I have dedicated brushes for my metallic paints, but they do need a little bit of time to wake up. Just need to swivel them around a little bit. They're a bit less creamy than traditional watercolors because they are made with heavy pigments. I think that's the reason why anyway. They take some time to wake up. Okay, so I just like to add some accents, metallic, a little bit here, here, maybe. There we go. No, don't overdo it. Okay, so that's basically it. Lots of different ways to paint, lots of different techniques. Let's just see how this turned out. Goodness, it's getting windy. Okay, so let's just have a look. Bubble wrap. Kind of fun, isn't it? You could do like a maybe medal with it. I've already thought about that. Little flowers and then maybe add some outlines or something. Let's see if this one turned out okay. A bit messy, but can be used for lots of textural things as well. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful as well. And oh, let me just show you metallics again. I really love metallics. Just oh, look at that! Isn't that gorgeous? Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you will be back too. And be kind to yourself. Happy painting. Bye.